Welcome to Are You Quizzing Me? I am Vineet Nair with my co-host Aditya Kashyap. This is a quizzing trivia podcast show. Join us as we dive deep into history, science, pop culture, and so much more. Let's get quizzing. Greetings! We are back for episode number 106 of Are You Quizzing Me? Your favorite quizzing and trivia podcast show. Aditya and I are back for another round of quizzing. And apologies in advance for any rolls of thunder that you may hear in the background because there's a thunderstorm going on right outside my window. And before all my power goes out because of a lightning strike or something, let's start the episode with a question that I'm going to ask the audience and the answer for which I will reveal at the end of today's episode. What term is used in French cuisine to denote a dish with a base of spinach? Not to be confused with the very pretty-looking southern European city or the restaurant which serves the best chicken kafrial in Goa. Let me repeat that. What term is used in French cuisine to denote a dish with a base of spinach? Not to be confused with the very pretty-looking southern European city or the restaurant which serves the best chicken kafrial in Goa. I will reveal the answer to this at the end of today's episode. And now, to our regular round of quizzing. Aditya, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so today's question is a question related to history. And this question has to do with a specific incident that happened in very modern history. And that incident sparked two, let's say, significant outcomes.
Okay.
One of them is what I'm going to ask you. The second one I'm just going to provide as a backup additional trivia.
Okay.
Having given that context, here's the incident. On 1st September 1983, Korean Airlines flight from New York City to Seoul via Alaska was shot down by a Soviet interceptor aircraft. This was a Sukhoi Su-15 interceptor aircraft.
Okay.
This particular Boeing 747 airline which was shot down was on the way from Anchorage to Seoul, but due to some error in navigation by the crew, they drifted from the route and ended up going through the prohibited airspace over USSR. So 1983, that's when USSR was still around.
Yes.
Because of that particular error, they were shot down. This was a very tragic incident because 246 people, the passengers, and 23 crew passed away almost immediately. So this was an unfortunate incident in modern history. However, it had two very specific outcomes. Can you try to guess what were, or at least give me the one which is perhaps more pertinent to everybody listening to this podcast and most people around the world?
This won't be the flight recorder, right? That's much prior to that.
The black box is a little bit older than that, yes.
Older than that, yeah. Okay. Korea from New York to Seoul via Anchorage, right?
Correct.
And it was shot down over the USSR when it drifted off course.
Yeah.
So the Soviets shooting down and South Korea as a US ally. Okay, no, because I was thinking of the hotline, the red phone they show on cartoons and TVs. Mm-hmm. But then I think that was also prior to that. It was during Khrushchev and I think Kennedy when that was already there. So then that's not it either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll need a clue. Give me a clue.
Okay, so I'll just emphasize on what I already said. This particular development or this particular outcome has a very universal positive impact, I would say. This is something that is universally used and applied.
What year was this again?
1983.
83? When did so it's 92, so it's 88. So 84. Yeah. So this would be just prior to Reagan. Okay. Wild shot in the dark. Reagan's directive to make GPS free and to the world, basically, instead of using it only for Reagan, I think did that in 84 or 85. I'm not sure which year.
Very impressive as always.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely right. The GPS project, the Global Positioning System, practically everybody who uses a phone has used it, and probably most people know about it as well. The GPS project was started by the US Department of Defense in 1973.
Yeah.
So it was used only for military purposes for the longest time. When the Korean Airlines Flight 007 was shot down over Soviet airspace, Ronald Reagan announced that the GPS system would be made available for civilian use as of September 16, 1983. So pretty soon thereafter.
It was 83. I kept thinking it's 84 for some reason.
He did declare it that it should be used by then. Maybe it came into proper usage maybe a year later or something like that.
Okay, yeah, okay.
This was an immediate press release in the aftermath of the shooting. And Ronald Reagan said that once it is sufficiently developed, it should be out there for the public good. And that's how GPS came to be used by the public at large and not necessarily just by the military. And I would say that has been a largely positive impact of a rather tragic incident that happened in 1983.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the other thing you said you were going to keep in the background just in case?
So I don't know how familiar you are with Lee Greenwood.
Lee Greenwood. Name does not particularly ring a bell.
The only reason I know Lee Greenwood is because John Oliver, regular listeners would know I'm a fan.
Last Week Tonight
has done a Last Week Tonight episode about Lee Greenwood. And Lee Greenwood, a big Trump supporter and all of that, his politics aside, is known for his signature song, God Bless the USA, which Trump has used quite often. It is used very often when citizenship process is completed for people in the US and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the oath-taking ceremony.
Correct. So during that, it's very often used and stuff. So the episode is related to that. But anyways, coming back to this pop culture trivia, God Bless the USA was written by Lee Greenwood in response to his feelings about the shooting down of Korean Airlines Flight 007.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to write something that was an honest reflection of his pride to be American. That's how the song came to be.
Nice.
Probably not as important or useful as the GPS, but still.
That was a great question. If my memory serves me right, somewhere in the depths of our previous episodes, I've asked a question very similar to this. Not regarding this particularly, but with GPS. But for the life of me, I myself can't remember what it was. I just remember I've asked it. So listeners, if anybody can remember what I asked, please.
I think we need an intern at this point just to keep track of the question that have been asked.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous at this point. Okay, so let me just preface this in advance that, wow, Aditya, so drinking from a vodka bottle, straight from a vodka bottle. This is so impressive.
Yeah.
During a podcast and still being able to answer questions.
Drunk history is for nerds. We do drunk trivia now.
Well, we should really do a drunk trivia once.
We should,
yeah. Okay, so this is a fun little question. It's a very open-ended question and it's fun. It's just an anecdote, it's a legend. So take it in that sense, right? So, according to legend, Matthew Boya played a spectacular golf shot in 1987. It was described as a glorious slice. So if you're a golfer or an avid golfer or whatever, you should probably know what a slice is. Don't ask me. I just know that there's a shot called a slice in golf. My question to you, Aditya, is what was the end result of that shot? What did that shot end up causing? Or it caused something major.
When was this?
This was 1987. Okay, the reason, I'll just give you a clue about the context of why I decided to break out this particular piece of trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those who are listening, we are recording this in the aftermath of the so far limited India-Pakistan conflict, which is currently in a ceasefire. I don't know what the situation is when you're listening to this, but as of right now, hey, ceasefire, peace reigns. But I decided to break this out because of that. It's somewhat related. In a very tangential way.
What was the shot called?
It was a slice. No, that's just a piece of added information. It's not going to give you anything more.
And the year was 1987, you said?
1987, yes. I'll give you another clue. It led to a Rube Goldberg-esque series of events.
No idea. I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, so let me just give you this another clue. He was playing golf right next to one of the national airfields of the country of Benin.
In Africa?
Yes.
Does it have something to do with the India-Pakistan issue, or is that not?
That's reason. I mean, like, you know how my brain works, right? Goes on a tangent sometimes. So, okay, the thing that kind of sparked this, because I've had this in my pocket for some time. I heard it a long time ago on No Such Thing as a Fish.
Oh.
But I read a New York Times article about satellite images of the actual damage that has happened in the air wars that happened between India and Pakistan, and how India did most of the damage as according to satellite images and things like that. And that kind of sparked this in my head. And then I also saw one of the press conferences of the Pakistani air chief trying to answer questions from a journalist. All of that together just sparked it. I don't know if it's going to spark anything for you, but Matthew Boya, 1987, playing golf next to a national airfield of the country of Benin.
Okay, so as far as I know, I don't think India or Pakistan have any...
No, it's nothing to do with India or Pakistan to do with it. It's just that
something, okay.
People are just screaming at the radio right now. This guy is nuts. This question is useless.
I love how you assume that people are listening to us on radio. But because my initial thought was it did it have anything to do with India or Pakistan directly. But I assume that isn't the case, which leads me to the next possibility that it has something to do with the aerial conflict. And did this spark some sort of skirmish, border skirmish with Benin and its neighbor?
No, it did not.
Okay.
But it did lead to a huge loss to Benin.
Did this shot knock down some radar or some sort of equipment?
Oh, very close.
Okay, so knocked down or this.
Okay, I'll give you the first step. I'll tell you what the ball hit.
Okay.
So he teed off, or whatever the term is, and he sliced off, maybe, I don't know if that's a term. And the ball flew over and hit a bird.
And the bird then ended up hitting a plane. There was a bird strike. The plane crashed, something like that.
Oh, very good, very good. I'll give you this. This is exactly so. This is one of the funniest stories ever. Mr. Matthew Boya, playing golf, poor fellow, 1987, hits the ball. Ball hits a bird. Bird drops onto the windshield of a trainer jet whose pilot was taxiing into position for takeoff. Pilot loses control of his plane and plows into 4 shiny Mirage jets, totally demolishing the entire Air Force of Benin.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Wait, is this real?
So Boya was jailed immediately for hooliganism, and his attorney said he had no chance of winning a trial. The country wanted Boya to pay $40 million to replace the jets. Since Boya only made $275 per year, he figured it would take 145,000 years to pay off his debt to society. The news made a few papers in Africa and France in 1987 and was also reported in Golf Digest magazine in 1988.
This is ridiculous. Okay, all right.
This is where I have to put a damper on things. I first heard about this, as I mentioned, on No Such Thing as a Fish. They mentioned it as a fact. But after some little detailed research, which means I Wikipedia'd it, apparently turns out that this is not true.
Oh.
Because the Benin Air Force never operated Mirage or any other combat aircraft.
Oh, man. Okay.
But it's a fantastic story.
It is a fun story.
It's an urban legend. And my hope is that by perpetuating a little bit of that legend, that it stays alive. So maybe 50 years from now, nobody will remember if Benin ever had any Mirage jets. They'll just think like, oh, Benin's entire Air Force went. I think there was a lawmaker from Benin who once said, Benin does have fighter aircraft, it's just none of them work.
Okay. Wow, that's a little sad.
Yeah.
Some lawmaker from Benin accepted that to be the case.
Yeah, apparently, yes.
Fun question though. And I'm kind of not sure if I should be proud of it, but we are perpetuating urban legends.
We're storytellers. All trivia nerds are storytellers. It's just that we sell true stories. So once in a while, let's perpetuate something which is not strictly true.
Some WhatsApp University stuff once in a while. Okay. Actually, WhatsApp University is a very weird segue into this, potentially going to get me cancelled.
Oh, I love those questions.
So this question, as WhatsApp University forwards usually claim, has to do with world records.
Let me guess, UNESCO.
Exactly, that is the vibe of this whole thing.
Okay.
In the case of India, of course, it is very often things to do with our great heritage and culture.
Our national anthem has been declared
Our national anthem is apparently
best national anthem of all national anthems.
I wonder who is sitting and voting on national anthems. Because I honestly, apart from my own national anthem, I have never really paid attention to other countries' national anthems.
Exactly. No, it would make sense then India would win, because if you would be voting only for your own national anthem,
That's true.
then India and China are the only two options to win.
Fair enough. Okay. So this one is entirely, again, we're going off of Wikipedia. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Wikipedia has got its information correct. I want you to tell me, what are the 3 largest temples in the world?
Okay, first question. By temple, do you mean Hindu temple? Because there are other forms of worship which also have temples.
Very, very well caught. I'll have to accept the fact that I was trying to get you there on a technicality.
Oh, thank God.
By temple, I mean something which would be almost universally, because temple can be any place of worship also in some definitions. But in this case, I'm something that would be almost universally called a temple, not necessarily just a Hindu temple.
Okay.
I doubt anybody in the world is calling a church a temple or a mosque a temple.
No, but I think certain Jewish places, they do call them temple once in a while, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right. Yes, they do call it temple. But in this case, let's just say Hindu or Hindu adjacent temples. So,
okay. So the top 2 come to mind quite easily. One would be Angkor Wat.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. So that is usually described as a Hindu Buddhist temple.
Yeah. My brother, for those who don't know, my brother-in-law is in Cambodia. So.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So he's in Cambodia. So then my in-laws had visited and they were telling me how it's a huge Hindu temple and whatnot. Anyway, original Hindu temple. Now I think it's Buddhist.
Yeah.
So that's one. And the second one was, I think, there's the Akshardham temple in New Jersey, which was just, fairly recently inaugurated, which was supposed to be the biggest temple right now. And prior to that, I think there was a temple in Tamil Nadu somewhere. And I think also that the Akshardham temple on the border between Delhi and UP is also pretty huge. So I'm guessing these 3 or 4.
Yeah, so I assumed you would know Angkor Wat. There's a second one that I was hoping to also get you on, but
No.
Vineet is ungettable. Yes, you're right. This is the BAPS, or is it BAPS? I don't know how it's pronounced, but BAPS for this episode's purpose. Swaminarayan Akshardham in Robbinsville, New Jersey, is a 74-hectare Hindu Mandir temple complex that was inaugurated on October 8th, 2023.
It's a recent one, I remember.
Year and a half ago. And it is considered the world's 2nd largest Hindu temple. It is huge.
I remember thinking, because I think the tagline in the newspapers and the news at the time was, it's the largest temple in the world. Right, that's what they were advertising it as. And I remember thinking at the time, I know that there are a lot of people in New Jersey, but are there enough people in New Jersey, that Hindu people in New Jersey, that you would want such a huge temple there?
Maybe it's a drive to increase tourism.
Maybe.
Some Hindu tourists would want to go visit the largest or 2nd largest, depending on how you see it, temple in the world. Yeah. I was very surprised.
No, because I visited the Akshardham temple, the Swaminarayan temple in Delhi, and it's a pretty great experience. I think they accept people of all faiths. You don't just have to be of the Hindu faith to get in, but you have to be willing to stand in line, and you have to be willing to undergo some pretty invasive security checks before you go in. But once you do get in, it's pretty cool.
Right.
Literally, in the heat of Delhi, the marble and everything, it's pretty cooling in a literal sense as in a metaphorical sense. I think that was also quite big, right? It was one of the biggest when it was constructed. The one in Delhi as well.
Maybe one of the bigger ones, yeah. I had a similar experience in the Lotus Temple in Delhi also, where I remember just being cool, quite literally also, just a cooling sort of effect, maybe because of the construction of the architecture.
Oh, yeah.
And just a lovely, cool experience, metaphorically as well. So, yeah, some nice temples in Delhi. But you were right. The third on the list, by the way, is the one in India. So, technically, the third largest temple in the world is in India. The first two are outside of India. The third one, which you said, in Tamil Nadu, which is in Tiruchirappalli, is a Sri Ranganatha Swami temple.
Ranganatha Swami, okay. That's a Mahavishnu temple.
Have you visited?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And it is considered to be the largest religious complex in the world in active worship with a continuous historical presence.
Okay, that's a lot of qualifiers, but yeah.
Yeah, a few caveats and qualifiers there. But still, it has some sort of standing in claiming the largest temple in the world.
Apparently, if I remember correctly, it's one of the few temples standing today which have a mention in the Ramayana.
Okay.
Apparently, it's mentioned in the Ramayana, is what I'm told. When you go for these kind of visits, temple visits, there are always these small bookstores outside.
Right.
Small bookstores which sell, devotional hymns and things which have written down.
Yeah.
I remember buying one of those.
Interestingly enough, by the way, number 4 is also in India. This is in Vellore. This is the Sri Lakshmi Narayani Devi temple.
Okay. I've not been, but I know of it, yes.
The 5th one is not in India again. Do you want to take a guess as to where the 5th one is?
5th one, is it the... there is a Subramania temple. There's a big Subramania temple in Singapore, right? Is that?
I don't think so, no.
Outside India, Nepal? By percentage, highest Hindu population in the world.
Yeah, a decent guess, but no, not. It is in the top 10. There is one of the temples in top 10 is in Nepal.
Okay. The other, I'm trying to think of huge Hindu diaspora. What's like Singapore, Malaysia is what comes to mind next.
Historically large diaspora.
Yeah, so otherwise, maybe it's one of the other ones like Fiji or
no,
Guyana or something like that. No, wait, Suriname I think also has a huge Hindu population, right?
All right, no, you're not close right now. It's in Asia.
Okay.
If that last clue will take you there. If not, I'll give you the answer.
Asia. Is it an active temple or is it like a historical one like Angkor Wat?
I would say it is a historical temple. I'm not sure if they still have active worship happening there.
Okay, so could it be one of those? I was thinking of the Bamiyan Buddhas in Afghanistan, so then that's not.
No.
Sri Lanka?
No. Okay, I'll give you the answer. This is in Indonesia.
Oh, yeah. Indonesia does have a. Yes, they have a Ganesha on their currency. And the mascot of the Indonesian spy espionage service is Hanuman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That trivia I did not know. Very cool. This particular temple is in Yogyakarta, I think it's pronounced.
Okay, so that's Java, I think.
In southern Java, exactly. And it is dedicated to the Trimurti. So, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh.
Okay.
And so in the top 5, 3 of the temples are not in India.
Okay, so advanced pop culture recommendation is Gods, Guns and Missionaries. It's the latest book by Manu S. Pillai, who is a historian and author. I loved his book called The Ivory Throne, which was about the royal family of Travancore. And he's released a few others as well, which are quite interesting. He makes for some very interesting reading. Gods, Guns and Missionaries, the reason I'm putting it in this context is it goes quite into depth about how the modern Hindu identity was shaped by colonialism. He's not talking about the points of faith. We're not talking about the gods themselves or the Puranas themselves or whatever, but how Hinduism took shape or how the modern Hindu faith was affected by colonial forces and the powers and things that came through. And an additional point, an additional reason why everybody should be looking at Manu S. Pillai's book is because Manu is a doppelganger for Aditya. Like, you put Aditya in a pair of glasses and they look pretty similar. At least I think they look pretty similar. They are both very lean, both have a very similar style of beard and very lean facial features and whatnot. So you should be flattered. Manu Pillai is a brilliant man. So
I actually have heard about this book. I've not read it yet. He was on, I believe, Amit Verma's podcast, Seen and the Unseen, which I've recommended in the past.
Oh, okay.
And think he was talking about the book as well. And one of the things that stuck with me, a lot of wonderful things that he shared, and I'm sure a bunch of it in the book as well, where he talked about how the word Hindu, the definition itself has changed so much over time.
Yes.
And at some point, it used to only include the upper caste people, not necessarily people from lower caste and scheduled caste, yeah.
Yes, Savarna and Avarna. Yes. He mentions that in the book.
Yeah.
I think that that point's also been made by Shashi Tharoor in the past, that rather than a very structural framework that we see for Abrahamic religions.
Abrahamic religion. Yeah.
Hinduism, little more open source, I think, is the terminology that would become, where we adapt faiths. Because I think this, again, this is not to just get cancelled. It's just that I'm plumbing this from the depths of my memory, is that when I was a very small kid and my grandmother was teaching me the Dashavatar, right? She would always include, so when it came to the final few, it was always Rama, Balarama, Krishna and Kalki.
So no Buddha.
Yes. So that was it. There was no Buddha. I mean, like, I don't remember anything about Buddha. But then a few years later, when I went past the stage of, this and trying to read things for myself, lo and behold, the Buddha appears. Which I've always found a little weird.
Right. No, it's interesting, right? I think anything that ancient, any organization, entity, whatever you might want to call it, a religion, synonym that you can think of, will have multiple variations, will have changed. Something as oral tradition dependent as the Indian culture was for the longest time, it is bound to change over time. It is bound to have variations. So yeah, this whole Dashavatar, in some versions it includes Gautam Buddha, in some it doesn't, is something that I've read also. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. No, so that's what I'm interested to know, who it was maybe 200 years prior. Right. If we can get our hands on some book or something from 200 years prior to that, or prior to the Buddha, who was considered in the Dashavatar, it would be pretty interesting too. And he also makes a point of the Kali Yuga, that a lot of the bad things happen in the Kali Yuga, so these are things that we have to deal with. So similarly, the kind of adaptation that the Hindu faith has gone through these past 200 something years is also related to the Kali Yuga. That particular concept allows for that adaptation to take place.
Right. Also reminds me of the fact that there are so many versions of the Ramayana as well, which is also pretty fascinating, which is also very interesting. And I remember watching a play, and this is again probably on the cusp of getting cancelled. This play was about this version of Ramayana where Ravan has come to abduct Sita, and he is reconsidering it, and he's wondering if he should actually do it or not. And Sita gets really upset and annoyed, and she's like, "You have to abduct me, otherwise the Ramayana doesn't complete. Otherwise, how does my husband prove himself to be the greatest man ever or whatever?"
Okay.
Cool piece of trivia related to religion and history there. And let's move on to the next question that you have for me, Vineet.
Okay, so talking about religion and history, have you heard of Saint Clare of Assisi?
No.
Okay, I would be very surprised if you had. Saint Clare of Assisi is widely known as the patron saint of X, sore eyes and embroidery.
Okay.
My question to you is, what is X? What is she the patron saint of?
What is the name again?
Saint Clare of Assisi.
Assisi.
Yes.
Okay, the name doesn't help. Assisi doesn't help. What are the other two things that you told me about? The patron saint of?
Sore eyes and embroidery.
No connection at all. Sore eyes and embroidery. Maybe you're looking too close when you remember. No, I'm just making random connections.
I'll just tell you a little bit about her.
Okay.
Her actual name was Chiara of Reduccio. She was known as Clare of Assisi. She was an Italian saint who was one of the first followers of Saint Francis of Assisi.
Okay.
Inspired by the teachings of Saint Francis, she founded the Order of Poor Ladies, which was a monastic religious order for women in the Franciscan tradition.
Okay.
It was different from any other order or convent because it followed its rule of strict poverty. She lived between 1194 and 1253.
No idea.
Okay. I will tell you the miraculous thing that happened in her life, which caused her to be declared as the patron saint of so-and-so, of X. Okay. In her later years, when ill and unable to attend Mass, Saint Clare reportedly experienced a vision where she could see and hear the Mass being celebrated in her room. So Mass was being held in the main church somewhere else, but she was too ill and she was in her room, and she had a vision of that same Mass happening in her room. that led to her being declared as the patron saint of something.
Again, I feel like in this episode we are bordering on getting cancelled again and again. Is it the patron saint of hallucinations?
No, not hallucinations.
Okay. Patron saint of...
Okay, I'll give you 2 more dates. Okay. So, Saint Clare was declared to be a saint, or rather, she was beatified or canonized in 1255.
Okay, back then.
Okay. 1255 by Pope Alexander IV.
Okay.
But she was declared as the patron saint of X in 1958.
Very recently, 1958.
Yes, so there's a 700, almost a 600, 700 year gap between her canonization and her being declared as the patron saint of X.
1958, hearing things on the, like something like radio?
Oh,
A little late for radio.
Very close.
Very close. 1950s would be television.
Yes! Saint Clare of Assisi is the patron saint of television.
Just because she could hear the mass happening in another room.
Okay, don't mock her religious experience.
Sorry. You know what? I'm just going to get cancelled so hard in this episode. But yes, okay, fair. So that is so strange to me. Wouldn't it make sense to make somebody more recent as the patron saint for...
Okay, I have something to say about that, but let me just complete this first.
Okay.
So Pope Pius XII designated her as the patron saint of 1958. Probably because of this thing where she had a vision of the mass happening as and when it was happening in real time. So it's like television, like literally television. You know, the mass is happening somewhere else. She's seeing it live in her room. So obviously she'd be more apt as the patron saint of television. Now, you mentioned that wouldn't it make sense to have someone new or someone...
Someone who's interacted with the television, has seen a television and whatever. Something along those lines.
Yes. So there's something that's going on right now that would give value to the words that you said. Because do you know who's going to be, or at least who's currently popularly called the patron saint of the internet?
Axo. No, I have no idea.
No. Oh, that would make sense, but no. The patron saint of the internet was originally designated by John Paul II. That was supposed to be Saint Isidore of Seville, who lived in the 6th and 7th centuries and was known for his extensive writing and encyclopedic knowledge. So because of that, Pope John Paul II designated him as the patron saint of the internet. However, Blessed Carlo Acutis, who was an Italian teenager who was beatified in 2020. He was born in 1991 and was known for his deep love of the Holy Eucharist and his use of technology to communicate his faith. He is currently being dubbed as the patron saint of the internet and will probably be the first millennial saint. His beatification process is happening on the way right now and would probably be completed by 2025.
Very cool.
So currently he's not Saint Carlo Acutis, he is the Blessed Carlo Acutis.
That is pretty cool. That is a neat piece of trivia. So, okay, I have no idea how this works. I have no idea how they declare patron saint of anything. I would imagine that person has had something to do with the thing that they're a patronage of. As
I understand it, a patron saint can be like those are declared by popes. Like popes can designate saints or blessed individuals as the patron saints of somebody, so that they would act as interlocutors for prayers to God for particular things. Funnily enough, even the Archangel Gabriel is also considered to be a patron of the internet because he's one of the communicators of God, like fast communication, fat.
Sure, I guess. I don't know, man. Yeah, not a religion I'm very familiar with, so I'm not sure about the intricacies of it. But hey, good for Saint Clare of Assisi. Still relevant, I guess.
And Carlo Acutis was born in 1991 and died at the age of 15.
Oh, okay. Wait, so this person is no longer with us. The person has passed away.
That's what. You can't be a saint while you're still alive.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Saints are declared after your death. So he died at the age of 15. But his interest in using digital communication was what is actually leading to people calling him the patron saint of the internet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like he died of leukemia at the age of 15.
Oh, unfortunate, but interesting nonetheless. All right. on that note of, again, a religious question, I will ask you something that I feel you have a religious passion for.
Okay. That always worries me.
Such a weird segue. Okay. Have you, as somebody who's into typography and design, have you visited the website Ironic Sans?
Ironic Sans, no, I've not.
Okay. Again, this was the first time that I came across it for this particular piece of trivia, but it seems like it was at least popular in the last decade. It was some sort of a blog.
Okay.
And something that came up on this blog entered the lexicon for typography, at least, to some level.
Okay.
Do you know what is the term that is used to describe the result of improper kerning?
Okay, kerning is a space that you get between letters. So the space you add between letters is kerning.
Exactly.
If you don't do that well, letters can appear very, very weird and very, very odd.
Yep.
Improperly kerned letters, improperly kerned words. There's a term for that, and that came from Ironic Sans, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the blog Ironic Sans, but it has since then has had a life of its own, that particular word.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, like, okay, so you'll have to give me as a clue for this.
All right. Well, because this is Are You Quizzing Me, and I don't ask trivia unless it tickles something inside of me.
Okay.
The fact that it is to do with the result of improper kerning is very evident in the name itself. It's obvious in the name of it, of the naming of the word, rather. The word itself makes it very obvious that there is improper kerning.
The word makes it obvious that there is improper kerning.
Yes.
Okay, so let's attack this logically. If you're talking about excessive space, then that would make sense. Because the word would still remain the word, it would just look ugly. If you have too little space, then words would come together. Letters would come together, which would make it difficult to read. Okay, so... but there are a lot of combinations which can lead to that.
Okay, one more hint, okay?
Okay.
The word in question is derived from the word kerning.
If you have improper kerning between an R and an N, it can appear as an M if you are using a sans serif script. So it would be kemming.
Very correct, sir. Kemming is the word used to describe improper kerning.
Oh, that's clever. That's clever. That's very clever.
So David Friedman is the author of this blog.
Okay.
Ironic Sans. I don't know how popular the blog itself was, but this word became very popular. Since he came up with this word, it made its way into textbooks, Google Easter eggs, and other places. So,
okay, nice.
It had a life of its own.
Nice.
And kemming, as Vineet very aptly described, is what would appear if there was improper kerning in the word kerning itself, because R and N would be very close together, which would maybe look like an M.
You know, it would look like
so
an M.
Kerning becomes kemming.
Kerning is one of the most important things, but I found mostly that, especially in India, you find words with improper kerning where you have too much space between the letters. Right.
In this case, it is too less space.
Or sometimes it's not just the space itself, it's how much space is perceived between the letters.
That's true. We have spoken about this in another episode.
Yes. So go listen to that episode now.
Yes.
By the way, just another geeky typography fact. Another word for kerning is more teasing.
More teasing. Very cool. Very cool.
Yes.
Stop more teasing me, and Vineet, give me your last question.
Oh, God. Okay. So the last question for today is as follows. This film started out as a follow-up to Space Jam, which was released in 1996. It was going to be called Spy Jam and was initially going to star Jackie Chan. When that particular version failed to get off the ground, the movie was reimagined and ended up starring X, who played a stuntman who hated working with X. So he played a meta version of himself who hated working with himself. X gave up the opportunity to star in the sequel to his breakout movie. Why?
X the character or X the actor?
So the movie stars the actor X, okay, who plays a stuntman who hated working with the real X.
Got it.
Now, X gave up the opportunity to star in the sequel to his breakout movie, Y, in order to act in this movie.
Okay.
During the filming of the movie, X's impression of one particular character, Z, was so spot on that he ended up voicing that character in the movie instead of the character's current voice actor, Jim Cummings. So I want you to identify X, Y, and Z. Who's the actor X? Which is the movie Y that he was supposed to act in, or the sequel to which he was supposed to act in, and the character Z, who he voiced in addition to acting in the movie.
You mentioned that Jackie Chan was supposed to be part of Spy Jam, did you say?
Yes, it was supposed to be called Spy Jam. It was supposed to be a follow-up to Space Jam. I don't know if you remember this movie.
I know Space Jam, yes. Which had a sequel eventually, yeah.
Yes, a horrible one.
Yeah, apparently it was terrible. I didn't watch it.
Not that Michael Jordan's original one was that great, but I remember buying the merchandise when I was a kid.
Okay. No idea at all. Absolutely no idea.
Okay, I'll give you the name of the movie.
But the movie about the stuntman was released. That movie's out there.
Oh, that released. So okay, I'll give you the name of the movie, which may give you a hint.
Okay.
So when Spy Jam failed to get off the ground, the movie was reimagined and was released starring X. The name of that movie was Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
It starred an actor X who played a stuntman who hated working with the real X.
I've heard of Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Yes.
I must have seen it also.
Probably.
Give me some hint. I think I'm very close. It's just the back of my head nibbling.
X had a... Okay, you've heard of the term reconnaissance, right?
The McConaughey Renaissance.
Yes. So this person had a similar kind of comeback very recently.
Very recently, this person had a
Not very
comeback.
recently. Let's put it that way. I've reached this age in life where even 5-6 years ago is still considered very recent for me.
It's in the last 5 years. Oh, this is Brendan Fraser.
Haha, very good. Okay, so Brendan Fraser plays a stuntman in Looney Tunes Back in Action who hated working with Brendan Fraser. He was supposed to act in the sequel to his breakout movie Y, which he decided not to, and instead acted in this movie. So which breakout movie sequel are we?
I'm guessing Mummy?
No, he acted in The Mummy too.
Oh yeah, he was in The Mummy too.
Yeah, but the Mummy made him an action star, but prior to that he was a star.
Oh, then George of the Jungle.
Very good. So he was supposed to act in a sequel to George of the Jungle. Now, during the filming of this movie, he did an impression of one particular character, Z, which was so spot on that in the movie he ended up voicing the character instead of the character's long-time voice actor, Jim Cummings.
Okay. This would not... He was parodying Tarzan, but I'm guessing not Tarzan, right?
No, we are talking about Looney Tunes.
Oh, okay. So not George of the Jungle parody. Oh, okay, never mind. In Looney Tunes Back in Action, he voiced a character which is otherwise voiced by another actor. No idea at all. I know I probably have seen the film, but I just can't recall. Some iconic Looney Tunes character then?
Yeah, it is a Looney Tunes character. Do you want me to give my very bad impression so that you can try and guess?
Oh, yes, please. Of course, I want you to give your very bad impression.
Okay, let me just get myself ready.
Is that the dog? The really ferocious dog? Oh, what's his...
It's not a dog. It's literally not a dog.
It's literally not a dog, yeah, but looks like a dog. The Tasmanian Devil.
Very good. Taz the Tasmanian Devil. Yes. Oh, so see, my impression was good enough that you were able to get it.
Yeah, that was a pretty good impression, yeah.
Thank you. So I do have a follow-up question, a little more serious follow-up question. A little more quizzery follow-up question, nerdy question to the same question. So in the movie, in Looney Tunes Back in Action, there is a spoof to Psycho,
Okay.
like the Alfred Hitchcock classic Psycho,
Right.
where Bugs Bunny pours a grey can of black Hershey's chocolate syrup
Mhm.
down the shower drain
Mhm.
while the tune of the murder is heard in the background.
Mhm.
This was a reference to the fact that Sir Alfred Hitchcock used Bosco's chocolate syrup
Mhm.
in the original scene to simulate blood in black and white.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why was this particular scene and this particular reference to chocolate syrup included in the movie? This is a very deep cut. I don't expect you to get it, but I just want you to try.
Why? As in, like, apart from the fact that it's just a very iconic scene.
There's a very meta reference here to the Psycho movie. Like, if you look at the Psycho movie itself, there's a meta reference that you could possibly make out in this.
Something to do with the parallels between the characters. Bugs Bunny as a parallel to that.
No, okay. Why chocolate syrup? So the Bugs Bunny pours chocolate syrup, right?
Hmm.
So why did they choose that particular sequence to spoof in the movie?
I know in Psycho it was one of the first times that you saw toilet being flushed.
No, all of that is fine. All of that is fine.
Right. Okay. Nothing like that.
Yes. So this particular sequence was chosen for a reason.
The chocolate syrup part of it is what is the question here.
Yes. So that's exactly my question.
Okay. No idea. No idea.
Okay. So let me just put it this way. I'm going to walk you through and see if you can get to the answer, right? Bugs Bunny is pouring down a very obviously labeled Hershey's chocolate syrup
Mm-hmm.
in a reference to Psycho.
Sure.
In the original, Alfred Hitchcock used Bosco's chocolate syrup
Mm-hmm.
to simulate blood.
Okay.
So there's a reciprocal reference here. And I wanted to try and get that.
Hitchcock, Bosco, Bugs Bunny, Hershey's. What? No, I have no clue. Did Bugs Bunny get dissed by Hershey's at some point? I don't know.
No. You missed the point a little bit.
Okay.
But this was going to be a very deep cut. I don't expect anybody to get this. If anyone in our audience has got it, kudos to you, because I made this very confusing. So the meta reference here is Bosco's chocolate syrup.
Okay.
Because not many people know that the very first Looney Tune was Bosco. A character called Bosco, who was supposed to be a Negro boy.
Oh.
He was the first recurring character in Leon Schlesinger's cartoon series and was the star of 39 Looney Tune shorts released by the Warner Brothers in the 1920s and 30s.
Ooh, very interesting.
I think his last appearance was in the late 30s. After that, he's never appeared, except for once in 1990, because it's a very regressive cartoon.
Problematic cartoon. Okay, very interesting.
Bosco was the first Looney Tune, and Alfred Hitchcock uses Bosco chocolate syrup. So they lampooned that particular sequence in Looney Tunes Back in Action, where Bugs uses Hershey's chocolate syrup.
It would be nice if you used like Alfred's chocolate syrup, if there was any brand called Alfred's syrup.
Yeah, but I don't think Alfred's chocolate syrup is something people would recognize.
Okay, very cool, very interesting. That is pretty cool. Wouldn't have gotten it at all, but definitely a TIL for me.
Yeah. Okay, so that's, I think, all the time we have for our regular round of questions. So before we start winding up, there is the matter of the audience question, which I had asked at the beginning of today's episode, and the answer to which I will reveal once Aditya has had his turn. The question was, what term is used in French cuisine to denote a dish with a base of spinach, not to be confused with a very pretty-looking southern European city, or the restaurant which serves the best chicken kafrial in Goa?
I don't know about the Goa restaurant. A pretty looking South American city, did you say?
Southern European city.
Southern European city. Southern Europe. Nice? Is it something? I'm thinking of French city.
No, not French.
Oh, not a French city. Okay. Okay, no idea. Too many options, too many potential answers.
Okay, so it's actually a more descriptive term to get to the city, but still, the answer is Florentine.
Oh, so does it have something to do with Florence?
No, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So the name for in French cuisine for a dish with a base of spinach is Florentine, but it has nothing to do with the city. So that's a descriptive term for Florence.
Okay.
right? But here it's a term for any dish which is used with the base of spinach.
Chicken Florentine. I've had a chicken Florentine. Yeah, I have had chicken Florentine.
Yes, which has spinach. If you're ever in Goa, there's a bar and restaurant by the name of Florentine in Saligaon, which serves, and I will fight you on this, the best chicken kafrial in Goa.
I will believe you.
So much so that you don't even have to order the item. You just go in there and say 1/2 and 2 pois. That's it.
Okay.
You have to have it with the traditional poi bread, which you get, not the pao, the poi bread that you get, and ask for a little extra gravy. They give you the little extra gravy and ask them to cut up the pieces, and it is heaven on a plate. Oh, I miss Goa right now.
That is a very neat segue into our recommendation segment. So thank you for that recommendation.
Yes.
Food recommendations are the best sort of recommendations in my opinion. But since we do other pop culture recommendations as well, let me just recall what all we have already recommended. And the first one was the Manu Pillai book.
Yes. God's Guns and Missionaries.
God's Guns and Missionaries. And what else would you recommend, Vineet? What other pop culture recommendation you have?
So I have 2 recommendations this week. One is a show that I saw on, I think it was Geo Hotstar. It's called Presumed Innocent.
Okay.
It's basically based off a very old novel. By very old, I mean the 80s, by Scott Turow. And I have watched a movie about the same thing. It was, I think, a 1990s film. I saw it way back when, starring Harrison Ford. But this particular one changes the ending a little bit. And it was a nail biter. It's a definite watch, starring the very, very dependable Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that's how we pronounce his name.
Gyllenhaal.
That's one. And the second recommendation is a show called Shard Lake. Have you heard of Shard Lake?
I have not.
So Shard Lake is a detective mystery series set in, I think the correct term is during the time of of Cromwell and Henry VIII. So during that time, it's set during the reign of Henry VIII. So it's based off a series of novels by C.J. Sampson. And Shard Lake, the character Matthew Shard Lake, is a lawyer who has a hunchback. So he's known as Crookback in the books and whatnot. He acts as a lawyer and as a detective. And the stories are positioned within real historical events with real historical consequences and things like that. And the show is very well done. I would also recommend that. A single season out so far, so go watch that. Shard Lake and Presumed Innocent and God's Guns and Missionaries by Manu Pillai. I'd also recommend reading The Ivory Throne by Manu Pillai.
All of Manu Pillai books actually are pretty great.
Yeah, all of his books are pretty good.
Very highly recommended. Check out the podcast episode on The Seen and the Unseen as well if you want an audio version.
Yeah, that I have to catch. I did not know that he was on that podcast. I should definitely catch.
He has been there a couple of times, so he has actually covered his previous books as well, and all those podcast episodes were very great. But if you've read the books, you probably have gotten a great sense of what he was talking about. But let me talk about my pop culture recommendation, and that is also a series, and that is The Studio. My God, what a phenomenal series. It is hilarious. It is incisive. It is satire. It is just the right amount of everything. It is out on Apple TV right now. Seth Rogen, I think, is one of the producers, one of the creators behind it, and stars in it as well. Phenomenal cast, stunning cast, and just a funny show to watch. So check it out. Very well made, actually. Apple TV is pouring some heavy money into the shows that it's making.
So Apple TV shows are of very good quality, by the way. Now, as I mentioned in a previous episode, it's available to people in India now, thankfully, who don't own Apple devices.
Yeah, you had mentioned this. So yes, check out The Studio as well. And that brings us to the end of the episode. Vineet, your spiel.
Yes. So the spiel, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for listening in. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It heartens my heart to tell you that we currently have a 5-star rating on Spotify, but we can still do better by increasing the number of people who add those 5-star reviews. So go ahead and click that button, leave us a 5-star review, helps us reach a wider audience and allows more people to discover and enjoy the show. We'd also love to hear your feedback, suggestions, and trivia. You can reach out to us on Instagram at @RUQuizzingMe. Please follow us there. Don't just visit and shoot. You can send us questions that you want asked on the show at ruquizingme@gmail.com. Just make sure to put the name of the quizmaster in the subject line so only that person will open and see the question. You can join the community of people who have been following the show at Reddit. r/RUQuizzingMe is our subreddit. And we are also available on YouTube. We appreciate your support. Look forward to sharing more episodes with you. Hopefully video episodes are in the offing. They'll happen soon. So please wait for your patience, and you can then watch our mental and facial gymnastics along with our vocal gymnastics as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please do. And thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day.
See you guys next week.